Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Ordinary People Pod. My name is Angel and I'm one of your co-hosts.
Hey guys, I'm Kathy. I'm your other co-host, and this is a podcast about ordinary people doing extraordinary things for God. Through conversations with church members, community leaders, and pastors, we hope this brings encouragement to your own journey.
Now let's get into the episode.
All right. Well, first of all, just want to welcome everybody that is tuning in.
Absolutely.
It is a special episode. So it is you and I, Catherine, here. And we're going to talk about, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, we're going to talk about probably one of the most ordinary persons that I've come across to know in the past 8 to 9 years. Why do I say this? Because this man was just, to me, listen, there was a lot of years, but in the past 2 years, I got to know your father very, very well. But I served with him when I was in my early 20s and on the board. And he always is very just quiet, just kind of read the room. Your mom used to cook for us. That was really good. And again, this is what the podcast is about, right? Ordinary people doing the extraordinary things, and that is because of God. And unfortunately, James, I like to call him, his ultra persona, Leonard, passed away this past week. And as we're recording this, it's whenever it's out. But he passed away this December. And I think you the family knew. But we want to talk about it. We want to talk about just dedicate this podcast to him, his accomplishments, just the impact that he had. I told your mom that day as I was kind of on my way to the hospital that he passed away at 10:20 in the morning. And I'm doing my devotional and I'm reading in Timothy and how Paul writes to Timothy, hey, I finished the race. And I just, an emotional cloud came over me, and I just began to kind of just get emotional. But I was thinking about Leonard, and I was like, thank you, God, because I know where he's going, and in a way of an encouragement to us that we are starting this race. Someone has finished it. Right. And so, So listen, you I'm gonna give you the floor, and just tell us who James was, Mr. James.
Look, he one of the biggest things that I hear from people as I'm having conversations over the past week is, Dad was a very quiet man. And one of the things that the DNA that me and my dad always had together were we always joked, and we would be sitting at the dining room table, and my sister even is sharing this, is that he would just sit quietly, but you could always tell when the wheels were turning. And then he would come out with some kind of little witty, quick humor, and he always gave us gag gifts for Christmas. And so when I was growing up, my grandmother, we had a lot of crickets in our house for some reason. And I don't know, it was just the area that we lived in. There were just crickets and because as a kid, they aggravated me more because the sound and all that. And so one Christmas, my dad gave me a cricket shaped out of iron.
Oh, I thought he went and grabbed crickets, put them in a box.
Then even a little bit more traumatic. But I still have that to this day. And but my dad was very loving, very compassionate. He always, wanted to take care of people and love people well, and he did that. One of the things is he had a lot of different names. And so, his went by his middle name, Leonard, but coming up through the youth group, he was a youth leader, and the kids would call him Big L. And then as I have been working in the community, the kids would call him G-Paw. And then to the grandkids in our family, my kids and my sister's kids, they call him Pawpaw. But that just resonated about who he was. And we did know that his health was declining over the years. And so as much as you can prepare yourself, it never truly prepares you. But one of my fondest memories of my dad was as a kid, we would always walk down to the corner store and get a orange push pop. Have you ever had one of those?
Push pop?
They're like
push pop.
They're
I don't know about orange.
Orange sherbet.
Yeah.
But, you spend 10 cents and get an orange push pop.
10 cents, man.
You can't do that now.
No.
You can't do that now.
What year were you born?
Let's see. Here we go again. Just trying to put it out there.
Put it out there for the folks, Kat. Listen, tell them you're a Gen Xer.
Yeah, 100%. I won't deny that.
Where my Gen X people at?
Come on now. So yeah, he was just, he served, his whole life, as a youth leader. He served on the church board. He served on the prayer team at church. That was, Sunday school. He did Sunday school when he was younger. It was just, that was his life. And that's what he taught us.
Yeah.
And, we've lived, praying that we live that life and have made him proud and all of that. So, as much as I've said, as much as you prepare for it, it's still sad because, you're going to miss him. But, as we were in the hospital, so he spent a week in the hospital. And even then, he was showing God's love, and the staff was amazing. And we even had a nurse that paid for all of our food at lunch one day, and she had been on the schedule. She had been there for multiple days that he was there, and we thought it was just part of the protocol, maybe, that at this point they had called in hospice, and so we just thought that it was part of the protocol, that if there's a family going through that they will help in some way. And no, it was her. She did it personally, and she just said that just watching the family and watching him, it just truly blessed her, and so she wanted to do something for us. And that was just an example of him.
Yeah.
So, I've been, talking to my sister and talking about different things, and, the practical joke thing, he would call her Scooter. When she started crawling, she would scoot instead of, actually on all fours. And so he bought her a box of cereal that was named Scooter. Like, it was just random stuff like he would do to do little practical gifts. So yeah. Yeah, when you're walking through things, like my brain has been all over the place.
Yeah.
It's hard to grief is real.
Yeah. And like, I think, it's awesome, first of all, that we're doing the podcast, but there's a lot of people that are in your shoes right now as well. And you can't, even although, like, I've personally gone through grief, the best saying is, like, time heals all.
Yeah.
And you kind of forget. It's not as real to me right now as it is to you.
Yeah.
The wound is not open, it's just a scar. So I could just stare at it and remember that hurt a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm not in that place. And you are. There's a lot of people that are as well.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like it resonates with them. And like you said, I mean, grief is because I remember we were at church and, like, you can't hide your feelings. Like, your face is just like, I know.
It's right there.
Yeah, it's like, that woman mad, or she's feeling some sort of way. I remember you walked in, and this was a few months ago, you walked in, you could tell in your face there's something wrong. And so, I only said, what's wrong? And you're just like,
really
just wrote down, right? But that was the conversation your dad had with you and your sister. It's just like, guys, listen, I am dying, and you need to let me go. That's tough.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was tough for him.
Yeah.
To come to that decision to tell his wife of 40-something years, you need to let me go.
Yep.
Kathy, you need to let me go. Alyssa, you need to let me go.
Yeah.
And even your mom tells me, like, when he's at the hospital, he's like, I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go home.
Oh yeah.
Because he knew. He knew that was it. He knew that, like, I've finished my race. Let me go home.
Yeah.
Let me go home. But that's again, that wound, it's there for you.
Yeah.
He's resting.
Oh yeah.
He's good.
Yeah.
He could see again. He could hear again. He has no problems. He could walk again.
Yeah.
But we're here, this earth. And although we know these things, we know that he is at a better place.
Yeah.
It still hurts.
Yeah.
But one of, I think the funniest thing for me about, I call him James, is because, Leonard got dementia in his last, the last couple years.
Yeah.
And he would come up with stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like I think the dementia just allowed him to not hold his mouth, like, like, hey, James.
He was so quiet for so many years.
For many years. This is like,
this is his alter ego.
I'm gonna cuss somebody out right now. And so that's like, when I was like, wait a minute, this is not Leonard. This is, and so I went to the hospital. I go to the hospital, and I'm like, I'm here to see Leonard Mills, and the nurse was like, who? I'm like, Leonard Mills. It was like, well, we have a James Mills, and I'm like, first of all, I didn't know his first name was James, and I think, like, the first time I went to the hospital to see him, he just, like, he cussed out the nurse, right? Like, he just cussed out the nurse, like. And I'm like, wait a minute.
He just wanted to go to sleep.
Yeah, like, wait a minute, like, who's this guy? Like, I've never met this guy before. Nice to meet you, sir. Right. My name is James.
Yep.
So, you've known him for a few years, and it's always there, and, like, but the last years he would, like, I think I remember one of the comments he said when we were kind of, like, preparing to open a church. It's like, Angel's been talking to me a lot more often. Why is he talking to me more often? Because we're about to open a church.
Let up.
Yeah. So he didn't hold back, man.
No.
He didn't hold back.
He didn't. And that's, especially, if you've been around him the past couple of years, that was one of the things is his filter got a little less, but it was still beautiful in the same aspect because even it kept us laughing in the midst of everything, but his personality was still there and everything, but yeah, we definitely had named his alter ego. Yeah. It's James. But yeah, we were, early on in the community, I remember I've been having a lot of conversations with the kids that started the program 14 years ago. And all of them just remember, all they've talked about is, man, I remember when G. Paul would give me a ride home, or he would talk to us about God, and, he didn't say too much, but when he would say something, you needed to stop and listen.
Yeah.
And that was definitely part of him is he always wanted to be, a good steward, and he wanted to be, a witness for Jesus.
Yeah.
And to share his love.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He helped mom cook meals. He drove kids home, picked them up, whatever needed to be done.
That's one thing as well that in the first years that we've gotten to know Leonard and just that whole crew. First of all, that whole crew that was at our church. One thing that you could really appreciate is that there were people that were in church for most of their lives and realized that the word doesn't change, but the way that we approach and the way that we sometimes evangelize and just technology taking over, it changes.
Yeah.
They weren't people that just kind of got in the way of things. They wanted, like, them personally are like saying, well, I don't know how to take this to the next level, but I wouldn't mind somebody that knows, and then me backing them up for it. So they knew they were all about the next generation. However they could help, right? That's like you said, he didn't say much, but when he did, it was impactful.
Yeah.
And for us, it's just because when you come in and you're a young, pastor, coming into an older church, like your first instinct is to, I'm gonna change everything in this church, right? I'm gonna like, and you run into opposition.
Yeah.
You run into like, no, we have been doing this for years, and we have been, we every Wednesday we do this, and every Sunday we have Sunday school, and it's like, guys, like, let's be honest here. This ministry's dying. So but then it's like, it shows you as a young pastor, like, hey, there's people that are here willing to back you up. Don't mess that up.
Right.
Don't be disrespectful.
Yeah.
Take wisdom from them. Listen.
Yeah.
And that was Leonard.
Yeah.
Right? Like a person like, hey man, I don't know how to make change in this way, but I'm gonna give you wisdom.
Yeah.
And so now it's my responsibility to listen and to say, okay. But he was never against what was coming.
Right.
And you look, I told you this the other day, like yesterday, it's like I looked at a picture, as you guys send me all the pictures of Leonard, and I looked at a picture of us, like, in the beginning of Greater Life Church.
Yeah.
And there was Leonard with Louise. Just a core group of people.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to see the fact that he was one that says, hey, I'm raising my hand to give wisdom and pioneer this. Because the reality is that a church, successful as it is not one person's success. Is a body. And it's not even that. It's just like Christ is the center of it all.
Yeah.
So it's just, it was awesome to look back at that and just be able to, like, listen to his advice, and
Yeah.
he had an impact.
Oh, absolutely.
In Neighborhood of Hope and
Yeah.
Greater Life Church, and
Yeah.
just the ministries that he was in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's when you're walking through this, you start hearing from so many people that, just come out the woodwork, and it's shown how much he was loved. People that he worked with, he's run his own business for almost 30 years alongside my mom. And, even people that he's, his clients, and, they've, just talk so highly of him. And then you have people in the church, and just friends. And so it really shows the legacy that he has. And as far as, just for a moment on the grief side of things, people are always asking you, what can we do? I've asked that same question.
Yeah.
To friends and, family that have walked through things like this. And you always want to do something. But it's hard. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, there's nothing that you can do, but, just pray. And as simple as that sounds, like it's the cliche thing to say, to say to somebody, but it really is, because when you're walking through it, you just don't, there's nothing that can be done in the moment to take away what you're feeling. And for me personally, I'm the one that, like, I'm just going to push through everything and get the to-do list done and
make a list. Let's get it.
And that's how I feel, just for my own well-being. That's how I feel accomplished, like I've completed, and this is not something I can push through. And you have to take your moments. Like, you have to stop. And that's one big thing I've learned just in this week is you'll be okay some days, and some days you won't, and that is all right.
Yep.
Because you have to feel. If you don't feel, that's when the problem sets in.
Yeah.
And, leaning on Jesus.
Yeah.
And, praying. And this is so random, but I had gone, Neighborhood Hope does Christmas blessing, and we take the kids shopping. And Saturday we had one, and so I was like, okay, it's been, last couple of days have been a little tough, so I want to do something that's going to bring me joy. And so I knew that my dad would be like, you need to go.
Yeah.
And so I went, and then after I was like, I enjoyed it, but I was so tired. And I went home, and I was like, I'm just going to find something to watch on TV, which I never really do, because I just don't watch, unless I'm streaming TV shows or whatever. But me and my dad would watch Blue Bloods and talk about it with Tom Selleck and Donnie Wahlberg, if y'all are fans out there. But it was the last, because the series is ending. And so it was the last show, which was wild. And so I just took a moment and was like, okay, I'm just going to watch TV. And so I don't have to, like, really process anything. Because grief is hard. Yeah. And definitely it hits different with a parent, for sure. No matter your age.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to give it. But but definitely, no matter how old you are, it definitely hits different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like you said, everyone grieves different.
mhm.
Like you're just had one of the church members here came in and he just said, man, like my father passed away just a few weeks ago. And he was just like, I haven't cried.
Mhm.
And it was like a question of like, why am I not crying? And it's like,
Right. Yeah.
and honestly, man, like everyone grieves different.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna hit you, and like
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I've done it before. It's just
Yeah.
like go,
Yeah.
stay busy.
Mhm.
Then it hits you. But if you don't take time to actually process,
Yeah.
like these kind of things are,
Yeah.
they're gonna surface. They're
Yeah.
gonna surface, and you need to
Mhm.
completely just say it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And just because you're a Christian, or just because you
Oh,
okay to
yeah.
not be okay. It's okay
Yeah.
to break down. It's okay
Mhm.
to go to God and ask questions. It's okay. Like
Yeah.
we live in a world that is, unfortunately,
Mhm.
because of sin,
Yeah.
it's fall. It's
Mhm.
fallen. And
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
to get back up on the horse and say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep working and keep pushing.
Yeah. It's not.
That's, yeah, like,
It's not. It's a coping mechanism,
Mm.
but it's not a healthy one.
Yeah.
At all. I can tell you that from experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not. You have to feel, and that's all I keep telling. Like I've told my kids, like it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to even be mad.
Mm.
But you have to feel those feelings, and not bury them.
Yeah.
And that's been the motto over the past week. Is like feel the feelings.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, listen, you still doing it. So you still texting me like, hey, I had this and I need that. And I need to work. And I'm like,
I do like
I'm like,
try to
Catherine,
put a little bit inside my time of my day because I also don't want to get behind.
is it bad? It's like, Catherine, I'm grieving. Don't text me. Don't call me. I don't want to work.
Yeah, it's just little moments because it's also
Leonard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate
I
you.
appreciate you, bro.
He is still the work
Right.
academic.
Yes. Like, man, come on, man. Like, and Leonard's out here putting that work ethic.
Yeah.
We don't get behind, so at the church.
He's still got to do things now. But yeah, I mean, even, and I know a lot of people too right now is grieving during the holidays.
That's true.
Like that's different too. Like we didn't,
Because Christmas is next week.
right.
Right.
And you're like, okay, the plans that we had, it's going to look different.
Mm-hmm.
We had already shifted some things, but, it's just different.
Yep.
And so definitely understand people's feelings when it's around the holidays. But look, I told a couple of my friends, because growing up in church, I've been friends with a lot of the guys that were friends with my dad, because we all grew up together. And talking to them and letting them know that he had passed away, I'm like, but I cannot even imagine the reunion.
Yeah.
I'm like, Gene Presley
Yeah.
is going to have Chick-fil-A and a sweet tea waiting on Dad.
Yeah. 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 And listen, this past few years, I have seen that crew
Mm-hmm.
that 8-9 years ago, where I've met all of them. slowly passed away.
Yeah.
Right. And like Gene, a guy that, again, I serve at the board. I was the young guy in the board, right? So it's like, I'm in my early 20s. Everybody's like, we need to put an ad out there. Let's put a newspaper. I'm like, you guys are old, right?
Who does a newspaper?
And I would say it, and they're looking at me like, young man. I'm like, you guys are old, right?
We use the internet now.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
And these guys, like, man, I remember seeing like Gene, and all of a sudden, like, Gene like left for a few months because of health issues and came back and was just like, just deteriorated, like that, right? And one thing about like Leonard is that although he was actually like getting worse and worse and worse because of his dementia, Leonard will come back. And you all of a sudden just sitting down having a conversation with Leonard, and you just kind of like, now I'm having a conversation with the guy that I've had conversations with, and it's like a legitimate conversation. He knows who I am. He knows what's happening. He knows everything, and he's like asking away and just, and that was cool, and in his moments of like when he would come back, it's like, do you remember when I told you this? I'm like, yeah. How's everything going? Can't wait to go. It's just different things.
Even in the hospital.
Yeah, I know. Like, Leonard, where you at? But just like moments of that, right? And that's one of the things that, unfortunately, I didn't get to see with like Gene Presley, because he just,
Yeah.
But you grow to love these guys, and it's like, it sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm not family, and it's, you still feel it, like, man, like, these guys like poured into my life, and although I was a young minister, dumb in a lot of ways of thinking, they didn't, they just took you under wing, and it's like, listen, man, like, this is, and you understand it now, but it's but that's happening. And and the video is like, it's cool because as I was making the video, and I saw a picture of Gene and your dad kind of hugging it out, and it's like, and of course he
super sweet
there.
Better than I deserve. He always said that when you would greet him and say, how you doing today, Hugh? Better than I deserve.
Yeah.
And those are the legacies. Like, you just remember, and that's the important part, is carrying on and keeping them with you and remembering the times. So one of the things that that really was a crazy moment, but has really been like so beautiful, is the morning that he was passing away. One of, I call them the OGs, which is the original, the originals that were in the program at the very, very beginning, that are now like crazy in their upper 20s, early 30s. Like, how old are you? Can't stop. Yeah, they're like, I'm like, how is this even possible? But one of them came to visit Dad, and he went in and saw him, and then came back out, and we had this little area right outside of his room that we kind of deemed our little living room, and we were just sitting, him and my sister, and talking about God and his relationship with God and questions that he had. And, we're reminding him, like, God loves you anyway, like, regardless of decisions that you might make, hard times that you go through, like, God is still there with you. And it's about the relationship you have with him.
Yeah.
It's not just this on and off switch that you have. he's always there. And whether you call on him or not. And then in that moment of us talking to him, Dad passed away.
Mm.
And so even in the midst, Dad was still sharing Jesus. And that'll be a moment I won't ever forget.
Yeah.
And very thankful for it. So, there were a lot of little beautiful moments while we were in the hospital, but that was definitely one that I will always hold in my heart.
Yeah.
And his legacy will carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's I think one of the things we wanted to do this episode is to honestly, one day we're gonna look back at it.
Yeah.
And you are gonna know what you're feeling.
Yeah.
As you look at it.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna be in a different season.
For sure. Yeah.
And there's no amount of words that we can say about Leonard. There's too many. This episode would be forever. Right? I know him as a quiet, great man of God who instilled and gave of his time and placed his wisdom, like, hey, listen, who took time, right? Who respected and honored the positions that we carried, and who was just grateful to be part of something. Not even, if you ask him, and you ask anybody, can you do it better? And people will be like, yeah, sure. But I think he honored all of us.
Yeah.
And he will forever be part of what God is doing.
Yeah.
What I find so crazy, and we've talked about it before, is that it comes in full circles. Right? We are back again.
Yeah.
In the side of that they served for many years, which is we're in the east side of Charlotte.
Yeah.
And you are continuing his work. Right?
Yeah.
Like we are back again where it all started.
Yep.
And we are just standing firm saying we are not giving up this ground.
Yep.
We are not going to. And we're sitting in an amazing church that's been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And we're ministering to the same places, and we're continuing, and we're growing. But I would say, before we close this off, is there anything else?
I would just, because this is real fresh for me. So I know the holidays are very, very difficult for people. So even if it's been years where it's been someone has passed away, know that you're seen, and we're praying for you, because it's hard. And that's exactly what my dad would do. He would pray for people.
Yeah.
And he loved people well. And he didn't know a stranger.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if we know you or not. We're here for you. So if we can pray for you, just put a little emoji in the comments, and we'll do that.
We're going to finish this with, first I'm going to say a story. And then I don't know. I feel like you should finish this with a message to your dad. And then we're out.
Okay.
But I'm going to say this story, and it's just like, it's crazy to me, because like you see God in everything, especially like when he cares so much about your emotions.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think like, no, God is just a tyrant sitting up there. And no, like he knows you're hurting.
Yeah.
And even in my situations, he's known, like, when I'm just like, God, I'm so tired.
Mm-hmm.
And he comforts me.
Yeah.
He says, come to me if you're tired,
Mm-hmm.
right, and I will give you rest.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I'm like, God, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I've seen him. But you can't tell me it's coincidence as I'm sitting in that living room that you guys created, and it's a cold, rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, man, like, what a perfect weather for this man to say, I'm out.
Yeah.
How dare you, Leonard? It's cold and rainy.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know, that's what impacted me, is just there's this huge window.
Yeah.
And you could see everything
Mm-hmm.
outside.
Yeah.
And the weather is just, again, it's cold, rainy. Leonard, we just sit there for I don't know how many hours. We were just talking, laughing,
Yeah.
crying,
Mm-hmm.
laughing,
Yeah.
chips,
Yep.
crying again.
Yep.
And, they come and get his body. The last thing that, as soon as he steps out of that, as soon as they take him out, the sun just comes out.
It did.
Like, fully changed.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you like, God, what are you trying to say? And it's like, I got him.
Yeah.
And your mom noticed it.
Yeah.
Your mom noticed it. And I'm sure it's like, because I look back and your mom just, I don't know what she said, but it's just like in the words of, like, kind of like thanking God. Like, but I just feel like that's God communicating to her, to you, to Melissa, like, I got him.
Yeah.
Right? He's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that was so not only beautiful, but it was just like, come on, God.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say it's just, if you could say a message to your dad that will forever be recorded, and what would you say?
Thank you. Thank you for instilling in me the love of Jesus and showing me never did I ever feel judged.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I went through hard times, because we all go through struggles. Never felt judged, just cared for. And loving my kids. He was the best pawpaw. And I had a dream. I already knew that he's okay. But I think sometimes God sends you these dreams.
Yeah.
Just to remind you. And I'm sitting in our living room in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I'm alone. Nobody else is there. And Dad is standing outside of his hospital room. And he has on his puffy jacket. And a pair of jeans. And a hat. And he looks at me and he waves. And he says, I'll see you later. And I always do an I love you sign to my kids. And so I just did that. And I think God gives us that. Because no matter how hard it is, it's his way of giving us comfort.
So I love you very much, Dad. And I will see you later.